Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 6 p.m. For the off-season, we've gone to every other Thursday to make sure we actually have quality content to bring to you. That's important to us. And you can catch us live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And if you are on here live and you have a question or comment, please do send it all in. I love that interaction with the listeners. I think it makes the show that much better. And if you aren't watching live, but you still want to check it out, no problem. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. You can catch the archived version on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or you can download as a radio podcast. So lots of options there. And if you like the content here at Sunny Side of the Dome, there's lots more where that came from at Jays from the Couch. There's the main podcasts. That's Mondays, every other Monday, hosted by Shaun Doyle and lots of other people, whether it's myself and Steve or whether he's got guests on. Always lots of interesting things to talk about. And speaking of Steve, you should also check out his show, The On-Fec Circle. That's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And Steve's a really interesting guy. Sometimes he's a very wise man. Other times, he's just a real wise guy. But you should definitely watch the On-Fec Circle and catch a little bit of each. So, very entertaining, informative, and lots of fun. Don't miss it. So, anyway, hello, Blue Jays fans, and happy Thursday evening. Excuse me. Time flies. So much is going on. My goodness. But, free agency for Major League Baseball officially opened a little over an hour ago at 5 o'clock p.m. So we actually have transactions to talk about, a few things that have gone on with the team, and a little bit of a look forward. What can we expect from them this offseason? So lots of interesting things. So leading off, some things going on actually. So earlier today, it was announced that the Blue Jays opened up 2 spots on their 40-man roster. So one, Taylor Saucedo was DFA'd, and he was claimed actually by the New York Mets. So all the best to him in the Mets organization. Taylor, I don't know how much you remember about him. He's been used as a relief pitcher. He's left-handed, a bit of a mixed bag from him. Results-wise, he pitched for the Jays in 2021. He actually pitched in 29 games. Wasn't bad. He had an ERA of about 4.56. So, I mean, it's decent. It's not great or anything. And then he had a pretty good spring training, only pitched in 4 games for the Jays in 2022, and wasn't nearly as good. He had an ERA 13.5. So I guess they figured that the Blue Jays, they're in win now mode. They got to do their best, put it all out there, and try to win a championship in 2023. And they figured Saucedo didn't quite fit in with those plans. Little surprised that he was claimed by the Mets. Might have thought a different team, because the Mets are all in to win as well. So I was a bit surprised that he fit with their plans, but regardless. So Taylor, all the best to you. And the other roster spot that was cleared was Casey Lawrence. So he was also designated for assignment, put on waivers. Only nobody claimed him. So he was assigned outright to AAA Buffalo. So he's still in the organization. He's a non-roster player. So he was up and down a bit. He had a fairly good season at AAA. Jays brought him up a couple of times out of necessity. Unfortunately, his performance really wasn't that great with the big club. I remember I was at a game. I was at a game July 2nd, first game of a doubleheader against the Rays. And Kevin Gausman, if you remember, that was the game that he took a ball off the shin, and he was lucky to be wearing a shin guard, or it could have been a lot worse. But needless to say, he he left the game as soon as that happened, and they brought in Casey Lawrence, and I think he pitched 5 or 6 innings, and that left the game with an ERA of 9, and the crowd applauded enthusiastically. And I thought to myself, what are you applauding for other than the fact that he just ate some innings? No disrespect, but in any case, I mean, he gave it his all. Unfortunately, his all wasn't all that great as far as a contending team. So he's still in the organization, and best to him as well going forward. And then there were some other moves. So Hyunjin Ryu and also Vinny Capra. I don't know if you remember him. He kind of had a cup of coffee with the Jays here and there. So both of them finished the season on the 60-day IL. Obviously, Ryu had the Tommy John surgery, so they were both reinstated from the 60-day IL. Now, basically, that's a formality because in the offseason, there is no 60-day IL. So essentially, you have to reinstate them or release them, and they weren't going to release them, so they're officially reinstated. One move that was a little bit of a surprise, I think, was they added somebody to the 40-man roster, and the person they added was an outfielder named Nathan Lukes. So he's kind of an interesting player. He's not a kid. He's 27 years old, and he's been in minor league baseball for a long time, 7 seasons. Has never played in the majors. Excuse me, just a moment. So yeah, he has yet to play in Major League Baseball, but his numbers aren't too bad in the minors. He has a career OPS of 741. He's a left-handed hitter, and we all know about the Blue Jays and their left-handed hitters and wanting a left-handed hitter and all of that. So he's got that going for him. He played in AAA in 2022 with the Blue Jays minor league affiliate there. He played 111 games with the AAA Buffalo Bisons, had a decent OPS of 789. As I mentioned, he plays the outfield. He actually spent some time playing all 3 outfield positions, so he's got some versatility there. So he's on the 40-man roster. Will the Blue Jays use him in 2023? That has yet to be seen. I mean, he could just be a depth piece if something happens. Knock on wood, we all hope that the first string stays healthy and all of that. Some speculation, and as of right now, it's purely speculation because this hasn't happened, but I've seen from a couple of different sources some speculation that the Blue Jays might actually DFA outfielder Raimel Tapia. So we'll see. I mean, I like Tapia in that at times he was very productive. He came up, he's a left-handed hitter, got some speed. He came up with some big hits for them here and there. He was kind of streaky, and he's not all that much of a power hitter. You kind of live with the streakiness a little bit more from someone who has legitimate pop in the bats. Tapia, I mean, he was okay, but he's a veteran player and he's arbitration eligible. He's projected to earn about $5 million in arbitration, and I think the Jays looking at their budget and looking at his production and thinking, you know what, that $5 million can be better spent elsewhere, even if a spare shouldn't really use that word, an extra outfielder, a 4th outfielder, maybe a bench player some of the time, but who comes in different spots, whatever, even if that ends up being Nathan Lukes, and even if he can put forward similar production or maybe not quite as much. I believe Tapia had a 0.3 both F-WAR and B-WAR, so in the grand scheme of things, you're not losing a lot if you say goodbye to Raimel Tapia, and if what you get from Nathan Lukes is even comparable for much less money because you'd be paying him major league minimum, then that's $5 million that you can spend elsewhere. So it will be very interesting. There was a non-move that was also very interesting. So 5 p.m. today was the deadline for clubs to offer their impending free agents who they're eligible and who they deem worthy of it the qualifying offer. Now, everybody pretty much knew that Jackie Bradley Jr. wouldn't get one. He might not even have been eligible because he left the Red Sox a couple years ago as a free agent, and he might have gotten one there. I'm not sure. And David Phelps as well. We knew that wasn't going to happen. Ross Stripling, their other free agents. There was some debate. Would he have gotten one? Should he have gotten one? Ultimately, the Blue Jays decided against it. So not much of a surprise if you ask me. I'm still a little sad. I mean, yes, I want to see them save money and be smart about it. I don't want to see them cheap out, so to speak, payroll wise. I want them to save money so they can spend it elsewhere and meet all of the needs that they have this offseason. I mean, Ross Stripling this past season earned $3.79 million US. The qualifying offer is $19.65 million. That would have been a huge raise had they offered that to Stripling and had he accepted. So that doesn't mean that he won't be back. They can still offer him a deal and they could work that out. I'm hoping that they do, and I'm hoping that he comes back. But if he does leave the Jays for another team, they won't get any draft pick compensation, unfortunately. So we'll see how that goes. He's projected to earn, the projections I saw were about $10 million a season over maybe 3 years. He is 32 years old, so had a very good year in 2022. Perfect timing, his walk here. Before that, his career, I mean, he had a few really good years with the Dodgers. Blue Jays acquired him via trade at the deadline in the short season of 2020. So he had spent about a year and a half a season, which ended up being a month or so in 2020. And again, his performance was kind of up and down. He had about half a season last year that was good, and the other half when honestly he was struggling. And even he commented, I don't know how to make sense of it. And then someone else told him he was tipping his pitches and had a pretty good few months there down the stretch. But anyway, fingers crossed. Ross Stripling really seems to have come into his own in 2022. I really hope he can come back and help the Blue Jays in 2023 go even further than they have over the last couple of seasons. But time will tell. In any case, I'll be right back. All right, so that was some transactions there. Now on to the heart of the order. And I wanted to look at some other things that have gone on since baseball is done for the year, Major League Baseball at least. Oh, Nate Pearson update. So yeah, still pitching in the Dominican Winter League. I understand that he's going to be with them through their full season. And now and then when a Major League player goes down to winter ball, it might not necessarily be for the full season. Maybe they just played a full season, whatever. They're trying to get some extra work in. Nate Pearson hardly pitched at all in 2022. Well, once again, he was on the IL for a couple of different reasons. He had mono to start the season, and poor guy, he's just been snake bitten. But anyway, the last update that I have, so he's gotten into 9 games, 1 inning per appearance. He's given up 3 hits, 3 walks, no runs, and 11 strikeouts. So the more I hear news about this, the more I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic that just maybe this can be the season that Nate Pearson stays healthy, can contribute to the Blue Jays. And I think most Blue Jay fans would agree that at least 1 or 2 upgrades in the bullpen would be very welcome and pretty much needed if they want to go further than they have. So could Nate Pearson be one of those? That would be awesome, because we've been waiting on this guy for a while. And yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have to give up anything to bring him up other than a roster spot. So they wouldn't have to trade. They wouldn't have to pay big free agent money or anything. So fingers crossed there. But yes, to the heart of the order and some things that have been going on with the Jays in the off season. So I don't know if you've been following, I imagine so, but there were 5 Blue Jay players who actually finished in the top 5 of Gold Glove voting at their position. So pitcher Jose Barrios, they've actually added a new category this year. There's a Gold Glove utility man. So Whit Merrifield made that top 3. Jackie Bradley Jr., terrific fielder, not much of a surprise there. I think he made it as right fielders. Matt Chapman at third base, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base. And then when the recipients were announced, the Blue Jays had one winner, and that was Vlad. So I couldn't be happier for him. I was very excited to hear it. I mean, he's come such a long way from the kid that we saw brought up in 2019 who did his best to play a good defensive third base, but it really wasn't very good. He was at or near the bottom of a lot of the statistical categories. So they made the decision to move him over to first base. And even there, he was a little bit shaky at first. He's worked really hard on his defense. And I mean, anybody who watches this team could see how much work he's put in, how successful he's become as a first baseman. I mean, how many errors did he save his teammates by scooping bad throws out of the dirt? Oh my God, I couldn't even count. So way to go, Vlad. And the accolades keep pouring into this young man who's just 23 years old. And I really hope will be a career Blue Jay, but we'll see about that. So there's that. Some debates, some people thought that maybe Matt Chapman might have been slighted at third base. I watch him. I mean, we watch this team, and my eyeball test tells me that he's a very, very good defensive third baseman. And basically, that's what the Blue Jays were trading for when they acquired him last offseason. Somebody who'd won Gold Gloves in the past, someone who could stabilize the defense in the infield, and someone who has had pop in his bat. And I mean, his offense was up and down. His first half, I remember they interviewed him around the All-Star break and asked him, so what do you think of your offense the first half? And part of his answer was bleeped out. He said it was horse bleep. So he worked on it, and he was better in stretches after the All-Star break. But yeah, the defense was really solid. When you look at the stats, things like outs above average and a defensive runs saved, where in the past he's had really gaudy numbers for both. In the past, he's led the league in one or both. Those numbers had slipped a little bit for him, at least compared to the other defensive third baseman. He's around fourth best now as far as that goes. And there's some speculation. What are some of the reasons for that? Maybe some of it has to do with the extent to which the Blue Jays employed an infield shift. And if I remember correctly, they shifted more than a lot of teams, more than almost any of them. And that might have skewed the numbers a little bit. But anyway, next season, that's going to be illegal. So wonder, maybe will we see Matt Chapman win a Gold Glove next season? Let's hope so. Excuse me a moment. So yes, that was the Gold Gloves, and then there were the big 4 awards that they announce once the season is done. So the Rookies of the Year, the Managers of the Year, the Cy Young Awards, and the MVPs. So this past Monday, there was a show on MLB Network to announce the 3 finalists for each of those awards, and as I hoped, Alec Manoah made it into the top three. So I don't know, even on September 1st, if he necessarily would have been top three. Manoah finished the season with a bang in the regular season anyway. He was American League Pitcher of the Month for September, came down the stretch having exceeded his previous innings limit total for any season, and people were concerned that his performance might be slipping there, and he just did a 180, and he was absolutely dominant and lights out in the month of September, and that really capped off an overall season of excellence from Manoah. So heartfelt congratulations. It is a well-deserved honor for him to finish in the top three. I don't think he's going to win. I think in a number of other seasons, he would have been good enough to win. I think this year it's going to go to Justin Verlander. That as good as Alec Manoah was, I think Verlander was just a tiny bit better. And what an impressive story for the 39-year-old veteran coming back from Tommy John surgery. And who knows? I mean, yes, he's had an outstanding career up until now. Who really knew how good he would be? But he signed with the Houston Astros, and he had an outstanding season, and I think he's going to win the Cy Young. So great for him. On MLB Network, once they announced the top three vote getters for the Cy Young, that they actually had Alec Manoah on the show for a while, was talking to him. What a personality. This guy really loves to talk. He could talk anybody's ear off. And one comment that he made that was music to my ears is that one way that he's working on getting better was trying to still, he wants to work on his pitch command. So he still needs to dominate hitters, but he wants to try to cut down on the hit batsman. And that's something I've been saying about him for a while. I think that would make him that much better. He's already a terrific pitcher, but that's one of the few things about him that if I could somehow wave my magic wand and change, that would be at or near the top of the list. Because, I mean, aside from the fact, yes, I know it's sports. Yes, I know that injuries are a part of any sport. And getting hit, if you're a baseball position player and you come up to bats, getting hit is always a possibility. Never something that I like to see, whether it's the Jays getting hit or the opposition. And not to mention that puts a runner on first base. And if our pitchers are hitting guys, then the opposition just got a free base. And that doesn't help them win games. You want to reduce the batters or the base runners, excuse me. So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing how he does with that next season, because there's a very fine line there. You need to be able to pitch inside to have control of home plate, and you don't want guys getting too comfortable leaning in there and then getting really good swings on things. So you want to be able to pitch inside without hitting guys, and hopefully that's something that he can master, and we'll see how it goes. So yes, the other thing that I had my eye on, although I wasn't all that surprised, but the American League Manager of the Year. So Terry Francona, no argument with him being one of the top vote getters. He's a veteran manager. He's a very good manager. I don't think at the beginning of the season too many people thought the Cleveland Guardians would be a playoff team this season. And he just took a very young team and led them, and they won the division, and they had a pretty decent season, including the playoffs. The other two Managers of the Year finalists, Brandon Hyde, yeah, the Orioles did better than anybody expected, but bottom line, they weren't even a playoff team. And then the Seattle Mariners, who did get the second wild card spot, and great for them as a team. And the thing and I don't know if all of you know, but with these awards, all of the votes need to be in before the playoffs start. So just looking at the regular season, did he really deserve it over John Schneider? Now, I understand that John Schneider didn't manage the Blue Jays for the full season. He took over mid-season once Charlie Montoyo was let go. I know it was a small sample size. I'm still very impressed with what he was able to do. He managed that team to 101 win pace. And I think the sky is the limit for the Blue Jays, for Schneider. I'm expecting him to win next year, and I think there's going to be a lot of Blue Jays winning awards next season. And honestly, even though this season ended with a whimper rather than a bang as far as what they did in the playoffs, I'm very excited about them. I'm very excited about the progress that they've made year by year up until this point. And I'm so excited to see what they're going to do going forward. Excuse me just a moment. And speaking of going forward, looks like it's pretty much time for Through Blue Jay Color Glasses. Like the new banner? I do. Anyway, so what are they going to do this off season? What are their needs? Myself, I think the focus needs to be on the rotation. I don't know if they're going to get Ross Stripling back. If they do, great. If not, they obviously have to replace him with someone who is at least as good. And if they can get better, so much the better. Myself, I also would like to see somebody a little bit more proven in the fifth starter spot. I know they have Yusei Kikuchi. I know they have Mitch White. And I know that assuming that they make the playoffs, you don't really need a fifth starter, but you know what? You still have to get to the playoffs as well. And while there's some debate about this, I believe that by the end of the season, the Blue Jays bullpen was pretty much burnt out due to overuse during the regular season, too many bullpen days due to not even really having a solid fifth starter. I think if they can avoid that going forward in 2023, they will be in that much better shape. So, a couple of rotation arms, maybe one or two upgrades in the bullpen, position players that they already have some pretty good position players. So, will they do something to tweak? Will they add or trade one or two guys? There's all kinds of talk about them maybe trading a catcher because they've got two very good major league catchers in Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk, and one of the top prospects in Gabriel Moreno. So they could really trade one of those guys, excuse my voice, and they should be able to get a really good return and address their other areas of need. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Here's something else to keep an eye on that really caught my attention. And I'll just leave you with this. Obviously, it's pure speculation at this point, but it's something that's got me rather fired up. So I don't know if you guys read the writing of Keegan Matheson. He covers the Toronto Blue Jays for Major League Baseball, and he's putting out articles. I see them about once a week now that it's the off season and all of that. So there were question and answers. So again, they asked Keegan, what are the Blue Jays' needs this offseason? What are they likely to do? And talking about the pitching and free agency. So this is what he said in his article. It may not be exactly word for word, but it's pretty darn close. So he said, at least one legitimate starter needed and two would look better. I agree with you, Keegan. The Jays won't be able to spend like they have in the last two off seasons. But if a free agency is a possibility, if they can find a veteran willing to accept a short-term deal for a large dollar value. Other than that, they might be looking at trades. Now, you hear something like that, and does anything in particular jump out at you? Because something jumped out at me. Justin Verlander. He has officially opted out of, he had a player option for the 2023 season. He has officially opted out of that, and he's a free agent. And as we all know, it came out during the season that the Blue Jays really pursued Verlander, that it sounded like he seriously considered signing with them and then ultimately went back to the Houston Astros, his last organization. He already knew them and so forth, but he was very complimentary of the Blue Jays' efforts to try to sign him. I think when I hear all of that, I think that the Blue Jays are going back after Verlander. I think they're going to make a real push to bring him and his experience. And as I said, probably the guy who's going to win the American League Cy Young. Imagine him on that staff with Alec Manoah, Kevin Guzman, Jose Barrios, who will hopefully bounce back in 2023. He's had such a good career prior to 2022. I have to believe that this was an aberration, and that we're going to see the solid guy that the Blue Jays traded for and gave up a bunch of money to keep. But yeah, I'm excited to think about that potential because Verlander, he's a veteran. And normally, with a guy who's, say, 10 years younger than him, he probably wouldn't be looking for a short term deal. If he is really, really good, he would be looking for a long term contract. Justin Verlander, in a few months, is going to turn 40 years old. I don't know how much longer he wants to pitch or that he'll even be a major league caliber pitcher, but I could see him taking a deal, maybe 2 years, $80 million, something similar to what Max Scherzer did a year ago. And I could see the Blue Jays being willing to pay that if it's for somebody of Justin Verlander's character, caliber, all of the above. So I'm sure we will all be watching closely this offseason to see what happens, if that ends up happening, or if not, what moves they're going to make, because they're going to make moves. They might not be able to spend, as they said, the way that the Jays did in the last two off seasons. But you know what? They don't have to. The team is much more set than they were a year ago and 2 years ago. And they just basically need the final pieces of the puzzle. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do to get back to playing next year. And they're going to have a deeper run in the playoffs next year. I know they will. So anyway, that's my thoughts. And let me know what you think. Am I out to lunch, or am I maybe onto something there? And on that note, that's all I've got for you this evening. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go Blue Jays, and let's watch that off season. I'll see you again in another couple of weeks.